Welcome to Hero Villains! Thank you for always watching and supporting the channel. Who do you think will win in the battle between Cyttorak versus Thanos? The battle between the embodiment of pure power and the brutal strategist of the universe. Thanos is a great strategist, a crazy titan but extremely precise in calculation. Without the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos is still a formidable villain, possessing superior physical strength, super intelligence, and the ability to manipulate technology, energy, and magic at a cosmic level. When equipped with the Infinity Gauntlet, he can wipe out half of all life with a snap of his fingers, reaching powers comparable to the Celestials or abstract entities. Cyttorak is an ancient and powerful entity, existing as a god of magic and the source of power for the Crimson Gem, the gem that turned Juggernaut into an invincible destruction machine. Cyttorak not only possesses ancient magic that can manipulate matter and time, but is also a divine being with an immortal body, infinite regeneration, and physical strength that can crush any creature in the multiverse. He represents pure power, no strategy needed, just overwhelming power to crush opponents. Before we dive into the analysis, please click the subscribe button, please remember to turn on notifications, and click the bell icon. Thank you very much. Thanos was born from two powerful beings. Lars, an eternal renowned for his superior intellect, and Suisan, a pure-blooded titan of the eternal race. However, he was born with a deviant genetic mutation that completely transformed his body from that of his fellow Eternals. Unlike his other siblings, who had the delicate and divine appearance typical of the Eternals, Thanos had thick purple skin like stone, eyes as black as the abyss of the universe, and a giant, solid body that seemed to be forged from primordial matter. His differences made Thanos an outcast, and even his own mother tried to kill him as a child, believing it to be a bad omen. Growing up in isolation and contempt, he gradually developed a cold, indifferent, and even cruel mindset. With no room for emotion or trust, Thanos has become a perfect warrior, a brilliant strategist, and a ruler with a grand but dangerous vision. As the head of the Endless Resurgence Empire, he imposes control through fear and absolute power. Freedom in his eyes is nothing more than a source of chaos, a rift in reality that allows uncertainty and chaos to creep into the universe. To solidify his power, Thanos once possessed an artifact that could completely erase free will, a cube of unparalleled power. But the object disappeared in a mysterious incident millennia ago. Since then, Thanos has been searching for it, believing that its return will fulfill the destiny he was born to fulfill. Under the guidance of Death, the entity that represents nothingness and annihilation, Thanos gradually broke free from the normal limits of the Titan race. He was not only inspired by her dark presence, but also absorbed the forbidden knowledge she passed on. In the deep darkness of the universe, where there was no life, she taught him the ancient secrets of black magic, a form of knowledge long despised and forbidden by the Titan's elders. To her, knowledge was the source of power, and power was the only way to impose order on chaos. While he spent centuries in isolation and silence, Thanos devoted all his time to cultivating himself through mysticism, deep meditation, and biotechnology. He transformed his own body into an entity beyond natural boundary. His body became as if forged from living metal, resistant to the terrible pressures of the universe, while his spirit was as sharp as an eternal blade that would never dull. When Thanos was destroyed in a cosmic battle, Death himself resurrected him from the abyss of nothingness. But this time she returned. Not only did she bring him back to life, but she recreated him to a higher level of existence. Every cell in his body has been restructured to become more flexible, durable, and efficient. His ability to heal wounds has reached a transcendent level, almost impossible to destroy by conventional physical methods. At the same time, he has also acquired the ability to control and absorb energy on an unprecedented scale. Cosmic energy, dark magic, and even the flow of life are controlled by him as an extension of his will. Do you remember the majestic character who appeared in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy? A huge, cold, and powerful entity. He represents a giant alien scientific race, specializing in wandering the universe to perform inhumane experiments on highly evolved life forms, and to control, classify, and manipulate everything they touch. Even without the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos is still a terrifying force. Not only does he possess physical strength that can rival or even surpass that of the Hulk in his calmest state, but he also possesses countless abilities. He He can create force fields from his body, control and release energy on a planetary scale, and freely fly through space like a living celestial body. Thanos is not a creature that can be measured by the standards of any species on Earth. With muscles that seem to be forged from living iron and skin as thick as stellar armor, he can easily lift blocks of matter exceeding 100 tons with just a light movement. In combat, he has directly confronted cosmic-level individuals such as the Hulk and Thor, famous warriors, and made them collapse in awe. More notably, he has launched attacks strong enough to injure Galactus, one of the most ancient and powerful entities in the universe. What makes Thanos so superior is not only his invulnerable body, but also his strategic intelligence and iron will. Each of his attacks is not only physical strength, but also cold calculation and damage from understanding the weaknesses of every opponent. The confrontation with Thanos forced the Avengers to mobilize all their resources, strategies, and will to be able to weaken him. However, Thanos in Infinity War is actually superior to himself in Endgame. In that first battle, after easily defeating Hulk with pure strength, he calmly took off his battle armor, showing absolute confidence in his natural defenses. His skin, as thick as cosmic steel and extraordinary endurance, have made him a nearly invulnerable fighting machine, even without the support of an external armor. He has been silently observing Earth since before the Battle of New York, tracking every move of the superheroes, especially Tony Stark. Thanks to that, he entered the war with an information advantage. However, in Endgame, he and the Black Order entered a changed universe. The Avengers were no longer at their peak. Thor suffered a serious physical and mental decline after killing Thanos. The obsession with not being able to prevent the tragedy caused him to abandon his fighting ideals, sinking into guilt and despair. Hulk was no longer the reckless warrior full of instinct. After merging with Bruce Banner, Hulk became a more peaceful, more rational version. Thanos in Endgame did not possess the Infinity Gauntlet, nor did he have the same amount of tactical information as the previous version. Although still a terrible entity, he entered the battle in a passive position, fighting without understanding the enemy, but as the embodiment of the inevitability of a force that no one could stop. I really hope you subscribe to the channel, it will help us a lot, and moreover, you will see great videos every day. You are the best. Thank you very much. Cyttorak is a mystical entity of immense power, belonging to the highest level of the Marvel magical universe. He is not only a powerful source of supernatural energy, but also represents an ancient and destructive form of existence. Cyttorak is a member of the Octessence group, which consists of 8 ancient entities: Kraken, Icon, Valtor, Watum, Farala, Regador, Balthak, and himself. Each entity in this group possesses specific powers, summoned by the ultimate magicians in complex and highly ritualistic ritual. The Octessence entities are often mentioned in the magic of Doctor Strange, who has summoned them many times to cast defensive or offensive spells. His deep understanding of the mystical nature of these entities allows him to manipulate their power, even turning them against the original summoner. In addition, characters such as Doctor Doom and Dormammu have also tapped into the power of entities like Cyttorak to enhance their own strength. Cyttorak's presence is also manifested through magical rings, capable of binding even extremely physically powerful beings like the Hulk. These rings radiate a bright red light, like life energy circuits, constantly moving as if they have their own consciousness. However, they can still be broken when encountering legendary enchanted items, such as the Ebony Blade or Soul Sword, weapons forged from ancient magic and capable of penetrating almost any supernatural defense. To fully appreciate the terrible power of Cyttorak and the entities allied with him, just observe the representatives they choose, the Exemplars. A typical example is Juggernaut, who wields the power of Cyttorak. He is the living embodiment of unstoppable force, a mass of undying energy coiled in crimson magical armor, moving like a living fury. Though vulnerable under extreme circumstances, he is still on par with the gods. 7 other exemplars, each imbued with fragments of the mystical entities that remain in the Octessence, have faced more than a dozen Avengers in ferocious combat. Though outnumbered, they have prevailed. Only by sowing doubt and discord within the group have the Avengers driven the Exemplars to retreat and forced them to release the Juggernaut. In sheer power, the Exemplars far surpass most heroes on Earth. And what is more terrifying, what they possess is only a fraction of the terrible power of the entities that empower them. Cyttorak, in particular, is a being that transcends boundaries. The Phoenix Force, a symbol of rebirth and cosmic power, is nothing to him. Even Galactus, the destroyer of planets, has little interest in facing Cyttorak head-on. Even the Chaos King, a being that once threatened the entire multiverse, could not erase Juggernaut from existence, despite his power beyond that of the gods. Cyttorak is not only superior to Dormammu, who defeated Eternity, but also far more powerful than Zom, a being that once made the Cosmic Ones wary. It can be said that Cyttorak is not simply a magical being. He is the embodiment of ultimate power, the source of an ancient force that can bend all boundaries. Cyttorak is not bound by the conventional limitations of a god or a demon. He is a pure and primal combination of both natures, an omnipotent supreme being and a living, destructive nightmare. Cyttorak is the embodiment of pure power and absolute control. He possesses cosmic telepathy, allowing him to send mental signals to individuals who are desperate for power. With a will that burns like a crimson flame, he can lure them with invisible temptation while also easily hijacking their consciousness and exerting control over their bodies. He does not need to physically appear. With a single mental command, Cyttorak can summon or banish his followers from his own dimension, the Crimson Cosmos, a dazzling and twisted realm of reality bathed in a fiery red light, where time and space melt like vivid streaks of color across the infernal sky. He can instantly teleport any living being into his own dimension, where he becomes absolute. Cyttorak can also split himself and create other manifestations of himself, each a miniature version but still with destructive power. These creatures, called mini crimson monsters, are often deformed, with muscles bulging like molten rock, and eyes that glow a bright red. When needed, he can summon giant crimson monsters, as tall as burning towers, each step creating a shockwave that spreads like an earthquake through space. Even if someone like Juggernaut, whom Cyttorak has given power to, dares to betray or reject his will, Cyttorak can completely withdraw that power and give it to someone else. Juggernaut's will does not belong to any individual, but is a manifestation of the absolute power that Cyttorak bestows. That power is like a blood-red crown awaiting an heir, not out of loyalty, but out of absolute obedience to the being that created it. Cyttorak is not simply a benefactor, he is the law, and anyone who enters his orbit becomes an extension of the undying rage of an immortal entity. Cyttorak is a being of unparalleled power, having once faced the immortal Iron Fist in a battle beyond convention. A destructive aspect of the Cyttorak aspect once imprisoned Sprite, sister of Despair, a lord of hell. This act not only demonstrated his power beyond the forces of hell, but also affirmed Cyttorak's totalitarian nature in the magical and spiritual realms. He can create avatars with power enough to shake the planet. One of these incarnations was Amit Abdul, blessed with such power by Cyttorak that it could make the stars themselves tremble. In this form, Amit's every step sent shockwaves through the very core of the world. Cyttorak did more than empower him though, and could augment his avatar's power to match that of his original self. If he chose, Juggernaut could have the power to rival World War Hulk, one of the most powerful and destructive Hulks ever to exist. At one point, Cain Marko was fully empowered by Cyttorak, and he easily defeated Colossus, a being created to withstand massive forces. More than just an embodiment of violence and destruction, Cyttorak was also a monstrous creator. He could create strange life forms, such as those that looked like dazed goblins, their eyes seemingly lost in trance, their skin glowing an unnatural red. He can even restructure the world according to his ideas and will, creating dimensions with separate forms, like a distorting artist shaping life with madness and rage. During a confrontation with Nova, he used the prototype version of the Crimson Bands to lock the Cosmic Warrior, completely neutralizing the entire power of the Nova Force. Cyttorak is an entity that is not simply strong. He is the living definition of unlimited power, the origin of absolute control, and an undying rage wrapped in blood-red light that reigns on the border between magic and reality. In the 2017 Thanos series, Thanos has faced many beings with powers far beyond normal limits, including Cyttorak, a mystical entity closely linked to the Juggernaut, the symbol of unstoppability. Cyttorak is not only the source of invincible physical strength, but also the embodiment of uncompromising destruction and domination. His appearance in the same universe as Thanos sets up a confrontation between two primal forces. Thanos is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe, possessing superior physical strength, near absolute durability, and the ability to manipulate energy on a cosmic level. Each of his punches is a crystallization of brute force and cold cruelty, creating shockwaves that can shatter even the toughest armor or crush galactic warriors in the blink of an eye. Thanos is completely capable of matching or even surpassing Cyttorak in terms of pure physical pressure. However, the most terrifying thing about Thanos is not his physical strength, but his sharp intellect and coldly calculating mind. He is a natural strategist, always analyzing the battlefield like a giant chessboard and calculating every move with ruthless calm. In the confrontation with Cyttorak, Thanos does not rush into a blind attack. Instead, he can exploit the smallest flaws in Cyttorak's magical nature, or use the surrounding environment as a combat tool, turning seemingly meaningless things into decisive advantages. When Thanos faces Cyttorak, it is no longer simply a contest between two powerful entities, but a conflict between pure chaos and cold, ruling intelligence. One is irresistible power, the other is indomitable will. And when the two collide, the universe shakes, not because of destruction, but because the two most opposing concepts are present on the same front. Thanos wields the Infinity Gauntlet, complete with all 6 Infinity Stones and the Cosmic Cube, an object of pure energy that can shape reality at will. Thanos not only amplifies his own power to its greatest extent, but can also temporarily overcome or nullify limits that would otherwise be considered inviolable even for an ancient being like Cyttorak. In that state, his every move creates mental aftershocks that cause the entire dimension to shake. Thanos is also a master of psychological tactics. He reads his opponents, exploiting their weaknesses in their thoughts and emotions like a puppeteer. Against a being like Cyttorak, who is naturally proud and imbued with a godlike consciousness, Thanos can use carefully calculated words of defiance to sow doubt or dangerously stir up pride. Just a moment of hesitation from Cyttorak, just a strategic mistake born of arrogance, is enough for Thanos to turn the tide of battle and gain the advantage. Thanos often surrounds himself with powerful allies or uses resources from his connections in the universe. He may seek support from other beings or entities to help him in his battle against Cyttorak. Thanos' victory over Cyttorak may have come from a combination of these factors, demonstrating his strength, intelligence, and resourcefulness in defeating a formidable opponent. And Thanos is the winner. I hope you enjoy this fight. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Follow me if you like. That's it for today's video. Thanks a lot.